The project I'm going to show you today is how to turn a dry erase pen that's gone dead into a dry erase pen mechanical pencil. The idea for this started a few years back when I had a student that had muscular dystrophy, and she'd gotten to a point where she could no longer hold something as skinny as a pencil, but anytime we did dry erase board work in class, she lit up. She really loved it. And so my first prototype for this was just to drill a big hole into an Expo pen and shove a wooden pencil into it. And the first time she needed to sharpen the pencil, she kind of looked at me funny. So I figured out a way to put a mechanical pencil into a dry erase pen. The first thing I needed to do was figure out some dimensions. Depending on the mechanical pencil case that you're going to be using, I use just a generic, it's a casemate mechanical pencil, and I take a measuring of the shaft there, possibly even the eraser there, and I found that the measurements were 5/16 of an inch. 5/16 of an inch, so I needed a couple of drill bits. The first is a 5/16 drill bit, and then the next I went one size larger so that you could still use the mechanism to advance the lead. So I went with an 11/32. Now the first thing I need to do is take all the insides out of the pen, and so I had a pair of needle nose pliers, and I pull the end off here, and I keep this part for later. And then when you pull out the felt from the center, the ink cartridge inside tends to shoot out, and you're left with a hollow pen. From there, I've taken, I modified a pair of needle nose locking pliers. I just grounded down the edges a little bit because I would get in here and not be able to push it any further. And then for this one, I'm going to use the 5/16 drill bit. The 5/16 drill bit, and then I'm just going to hand route out the inside shaft. Right now I'm making this tip part large enough to fit the barrel of the pencil, and so I just keep going. Every so often you pull it out to get rid of the extra bits. Not very exciting. Now I've tried this using a drill press, and it just splinters the plastic. So I would recommend doing this part by hand. I've now cleared out probably the first ½ inch of this pen, and then depending on the mechanical pencil you're using, I need a safety blade, a razor blade, to cut this at some point, and I found that for these pencils I need to cut it right there at about 1/4 of an inch above the barrel. Again, it all depends on the brand you're using of mechanical pencil that you want to put inside. And then I cut that piece off, and so eventually it'll look something like that. And so now that I've got the barrel done, I go to the next spot, which is this little tail end piece. Now originally I would do all of this by hand, but now I use the drill press for a lot of this. So I've got again locking pliers with a round fitting, and I use just any drill bit to start a pilot hole. And so after I've drilled the pilot hole, it'll look something like this, and that's still not big enough for the pencil to go through. So I drill it out again with for this pencil, it's an 11/32 drill bit, and I end up drilling out the hole like that. Now on to the cap. Now I switched drill bits. Again, I'm going to be using that 11/32 drill bit here. A few different modifications I've made over time. I like wrapping some sort of duct tape around the end of this drill bit. For this one I'm not. I'm just going to go like that. And I hand drill the cap. And the reason I do that is because when I use a mechanical device like the drill press, it just splinters these. After a couple revolutions, you'll see that it's starting to deform the tip, and that's great. After I've cleared out the inside, I again use a safety blade, and this time I'm going to cut right where that white line is, forming on the inside. And chase it one more time with the drill bit just to make sure it goes all the way through. Now, through trial and error and error and error and error, I've figured out a couple of things about this. One, the mechanical pencil comes like this. There's the little pocket clip, and we don't need that. So I grind that off, or I cut it off, and then I use I've got a grinder, and I just route around the edge so that it comes out smooth like this. If you are using this for younger students or students that may be a little bit more heavy-handed, instead of using a 0.7 millimeter lead, you might want to go with a 0.9, or I've even seen them as large as a 1. For this next part, I kind of have to take a measurement using these pieces. I'm going to put this on here and like this, and helps if I go the right direction. When I put the pen together, it's going to end up like this, and I want to be able to use that mechanism. And so I found that at that point, I'll take the hot glue gun and just put a little drop of hot glue to hold that piece in place. And then I put the whole thing together like that. And by doing that, I know that the mechanism will keep working. I will secure it with more hot glue around the base here. I use hot glue because at any point in time, if I mess up, I can always undo it and just peel it all back off. But here's the main mechanism. I've advanced the lead a little too far. And then I just push this all together as part of a now mechanical pencil pen. And then when you need to use it, it works fine. You can erase, no problem. If anything ever goes wrong, you can just pull it all back apart. It's just dry erase and a little bit of hot glue.